Today we're going to take and do a review here of Ederon, online trading card game. Starting out, I had a feeling I might run into something similar to Magic the Gathering. I was pleasantly surprised when I discovered that the game was actually a little bit different. The game is structured in three phases, deploy, attack, and action phase. Mind you, I didn't remember or read it, so I gave them my own little names. There is no actual resources in the game, but in some cases there are perquisites or perquisites for something to be cast. A perquisite could be hurting yourself by loss of life, a sword in play, armor not in play, and so on. But not all items require that. Some cases is simply just, class-based, use casting. There are 8 classes in total, and you can switch between them, but it takes a turn to put the class out, so it'll actually eat up one of your turns. There are cards that you can use to switch between classes without actually losing your turn. This will make the transition a lot easier. In the game, there are weapons, armor, artifacts, spells to cast, and there's also, as far as spell attacks and spell usage, there are 2 different things, along with ability attacks and ability uses. They're each labeled a little bit differently. That primarily comes into play when they're trying to counter the spell. In some of the text, it does get a little confusing with that per se. Starting out in this game, it can feel a bit daunting. You feel robbed. Well, I felt robbed on some levels, since they force you to get starting out, you start with a little starter pack, basically, and it just doesn't feel like it's enough. I don't want everything, but it's just one starter pack. If I show you here, here we go, this is how the list. There's a bunch of different classes right here, and each class is different. Well, when you start out, you only can pick one class, and you can't really deviate from it until later on, but you have to sit there and bear and grin it to get through that class, or at least that's the way it starts to feel. So far I've tried the fighter and the sorcerer, and the main issue with the game seems to be the only way to get matches is to fight any level. So you fight either the same skill level or you fight any level, and the any level seems to be the one that I can only get matches with. I mean, there are some people who are low, but then when I was trying it first off, most of the people are high. So I'm like, okay, well, that's not good, because then you start to feed the regulars, and you are completely outclassed because you are a rookie. Not only that, but as a fighter, as far as what I chose, my starter deck was only weapons, armor, shields, and a few other cards. So most of the time, you end up sitting there and you're watching the events unfold while you wait to summon more weapons. Now, your weapons are instant cast, where you bring it out and they instantly attack. Armor is for your defense, and then the shield will either give you more defense versus other weapons, or you could actually take in some cases, in the fighter's case, when you bring the shield out, the shield actually has a little buff that'll boost your weapon and do more damage. But the thing is the deck has no instant casting, offensive spells, defensive spells. It has maybe 1 or 2, and that's about it, and it's very limited. So most of the time when you fight against another deck, most of the decks I was fighting against, they're like pepper decks, and so you end up getting peppered down in the process of trying to attack your opponent. They just wear you thin, and you just die. So I decided, okay, well maybe it's just a deck. So I reset the account to a sorcerer because, there's counter spells. The sorcerer seemed to be more of a counter spell kind of character, so it's like, okay, that could work. I could work with that. Sadly, their attack spells tend to limit the ability to defend or counter what you're fighting, as far as like other spells that are trying to pepper you down with attack damage. So early gameplay just feels really constricting. It is not rookie friendly. Well, here, let me show you what I'm talking about as far as within your deck. Find like this one right here. See, this is your attack spell. You deal 4 damage to your opponent, so that's a nice spell, but you cannot use defensive spells on your opponent's next turn. So after you get done, like doing 4 points of damage, you completely leave yourself open. This was in the starter deck. A bunch of these, like I think two of these were in there. You cannot use defensive abilities during your next turn, but you do 3 points of damage. Okay, this one was in there. You have to have a sword in play, and then you skip your next draw phase, and then you do 4 points of damage. Okay, now see, this one's alright. There's a couple of summon orcs, where you just do 3 points of damage and you're good. Like here, there's one of these that were in there, and there's another book that you get as you unlock it with points. You have skill points, and it ended up to where, you cannot defend yourself. You cannot use it, and this is an artifact that goes into play. It goes into one of your hands, so you have 2 hands. So usually a sword and shield kind of thing, but in the sorcerer's case, there's no sword and shield. Let's see, is there any others here? But you pretty much these 3. Well, the summon griffin is part of your primary attacks. The orc as well, but and the giant too. But it's just your deck limit is 40. So in 40 cards, like a couple of giants, a couple of griffins, I had to remove them just to be able to properly defend myself and have a better chance of winning. I just I don't know. It feels really, that deck felt really constricting. And the points or gold and gems that you get as you either win or lose, they're very slow. And when you look at their shop, you go over their shop. I managed to, in the last 24 hours, I've played it a decent amount, and I got 198 gold, and I could actually afford one of their little, whatever these are, little booster packs or whatever. But look, they only got 5 cards in them. 5 cards for 170, 180. The prices are a little bit different, which is kind of odd. So let's look at this. A much cheaper pack containing only common cards from the Alpha Edition. Okay, so 5 common cards for 170. Well, is it class specific, or is it like, I'm trying to see, I can't really tell, I'm not sure. Much cheaper pack containing only common cards, okay. So why is this 175 and this is 170? What's the difference? Why is this has all common? Is it because, okay, that's Alpha, and this is Dragon Realms. So Dragon Realms is 5 more gold expensive. And then apparently here's another one from Turning Tides, 5 common cards, okay. And so I guess each different pack is progressively newer and newer and newer. But if you want 10 cards, it'll cost you 1,500. Because you get 3 uncommon and 1 rare. Now that's 1,500, right? I'm at 198. So, I mean, that tells me that with that kind of a gameplay right there, I'm looking at 10 days. Would be 1,000. Well, no, actually, sorry. It'd be 7.5 days. around there, 7 days maybe, and I'll be at 1500. Sorry, my math is off for a second. So it just makes you want to cringe. I mean, you're fighting high-level players. You're basically feeding them, and I don't know. It feels a little bit off. I'm a player that likes options and want to be able to take and change things up a little bit early. Expansions and additional starters should be up there in the price. I agree with that, but we should have the starting tools to make a variety of basic decks or multicolor decks. As far as 4 different colors, there's 4 different colors for 2 classes of each color. Why they have that, I'm not exactly sure why they took him to put it that way, but that's kind of how it's set up. Let me show you right in here. Let's see if I find it. There we go. So we got the Knight and Cav Gladiator, they're red. The Hunter and Rogue are green. The Paladin and Monk are yellow. The Sorcerer and Wizard are blue. And but we don't have the option of creating like a multicolored deck or anything like that. I mean, they obviously took the idea of the color from like Magic of the Gathering, since they were broken up kind of the same way, as far as they gave that same kind of feel. But to try different decks fully, you have to reset your account before level 10. After you reset, like after level 10, the reset option's gone. Basically, without reset limitations, cards would be dispersed and new accounts made because of the fact that they have a trading system here. Although they could add or have made it so that way you could push a button to activate the trade ability and then lose your reset in the process. But overall, in the long run, I felt that some of the cards were a little misleading. Sometimes I didn't even know like what was hurting me because it didn't flash the name of the ability like above the card when the card was played, or if it was like one card was used and then it actually ricocheted to another card that caused the damage. That it should have showed me the source of the damage so I could actually like look at the card. So I had a hard time, like there was one ability called Transmutation, I think it was, and the guy discarded cards out of his hand and I took damage, but I had no idea where the damage came from. I just thought he was discarding. I looked on the field and as far as what was supposedly in front of him, and there was no cards down. So I'm like, how did I take damage? So I'm like, what the hell? And so I had actually looked through his like graveyard, the card he just got rid of, and he just tossed 2 of them, and that was what did damage to me. And I think it should have flashed. It should have gave me notice of some sort. The note, like, let me know where the damage was coming from. So with that, also there are a few mechanical flaws in the game as well. But I won't like go into detail on all of them that I found. But although I mean I did enjoy some aspects of the game, there just wasn't enough there that made me want to hang around and play more of it. It just so basically my final rating for this game is 6 out of 10. It's a pretty good game. It did have some nice concepts, but it's just not enough there for me to stick around. It still feels like a beta. The artwork obviously is not at Magic the Gathering level, but it was okay. It was definitely like you could look past it. But yeah, so my overall rating, my final score is 6 out of 10.